Paul Tracy, Bill Elliott, if Dale Earnhardt was around, if Connie Coletta was around, they'd go, Ron, you're a wussy. What are you drinking? A freaking baby drinking there before you hop in a race car, you little bastard.
I hate to spoil your little analogy, but Dale Earnhardt Sr. drank it. So what?
What?
Woo! I mean, how do you not model after the greatest in the world?
Ron Capps joining us here in the Freak Nation. 21 years of doing this thing, and a lot of those 21 years, Ron's been in here. Ron's running a hell of a lot of races, some championships in the mix. But let's go back to Pomona, and the story coming out of Pomona, 150 track temperature, ambient temperature up to 100 degrees. Outside looking in, that doesn't bode well for men and women in fire suits stuck in the cockpit of a non-air-conditioned race car. Did you ever question going down that racetrack when it was that hot?
No. And I saw the problems that Justin Ashley had. In fact, I just read where he actually talked about him not eating the right thing. And I'm not sure. I'll see him in Topeka and ask him, but about not eating right on Sunday. And that plays such a big role into it. Yeah, you got to do all the right stuff, and you got to expect going to Denver. Usually that's the issue in Denver everybody has. And, I always try to watch what I eat. Don Perdome years ago, believe it or not, Snake made a comment to me that never left my brain, and it was a hungry lion hunts better with an empty stomach. And that sort of gave me an insight to what he was talking about, but it was eat right and not eat a lot of whatever you eat. So I have a big breakfast in the morning at every race, and then I go in between rounds with maybe half of a protein bar with low glycemic or no glycemic, and pace yourself throughout the day. There's races. I remember working with Blaine and Alan Johnson. Blaine would never eat on Sundays. And so I watched him, and he was one of the best. So you just got to pay attention to your body, but eating the wrong thing and too much during race day is a killer. I mean, that will ruin your day in a heartbeat. So I was fine. I've been doing this long enough. John Force, when I came in, he was whooping everybody in funny car, and you heard him. He was saying donuts and coffee in the morning. He was not lying. I hung out with him a lot, and that's what he did. And there was a cup of coffee in between rounds. And he's not the best specimen in the gym. Or maybe now, but he wasn't back then. You know what I mean? So when I came in, it was Al Hoffman and Chuck Etchels and John Force, and these guys weren't in the gym. I'd see them going to the track in the morning while I was in the gym, but I watched what they did, and I kind of took a little bit from that. But the Don Perdome kind of, taught me years ago how to race on Sunday, how to stay hungry per se, I guess, if you take it that way.
That being said, Leah Pruitt finally gets a win since I think it's been since 2019, your teammate. And we know Leah very well. We know all you guys very well, and we know you don't want to win by a solo pass. Have you ever won a big time race with a solo pass because that person never showed up, or there were issues prior to lighting up the funny car or dragster?
I mean, it's happened early in the day, but I don't think I've ever had that happen in a final round. That's a great question, Kenny. I don't think so. And I actually heard Smoke went over and while he got out of the car the first time, I guess he went over and threw up in the stage lanes while we were getting ready to run right in front of them, and grabbed ice out of his motorhome and brought it back to try and help the kid get Justin Ashley get good enough to get back in the car. No, I don't think I've ever had a bye. You always joke. You're like, people ask you about who do you want to race or who's the opponent you don't want in the lane. And I always say BYE, Mr. Bye, is the best opponent, because if you know you got a bye, it's such a relief. You just go up stage, you try to do your thing, and you go for lane choice for the next round. So I can't even imagine rolling up in a final, already know that you've won. So, yeah, that's strange.
Kenny, are you trying to allude that some fans think that that's not a real win? Because she still worked her ass off all day and basically all year to finally check off that win column for 2021 and 2020, to be perfectly honest. So it's still a big win. Are you trying to say that fans don't look at it that way? Kind of like in oval racing, a fuel mileage race?
No, I'm not insinuating that at all. I just know the fire that burns in Caps and every funny car and Top Fuel Pilot, they want to beat the best. And a bye in the other lane in your final race. Come on, man. Ron knows it's about the freaking fans, and the fans got a single.
I have had somebody shut off. While you guys were talking, I remember Gary Dincham, I think, shut off in Phoenix one year, and I'm screaming at Ace, my crew chief, on the radio, because I didn't know if he got shut off at the line, right, did his burnout, something happened. If I stage the car, if I go out and cross the center line, normally that's a first or worse, and you're disqualified. So I wasn't sure if he doesn't even take the tree, I was going to go out and shut the car off to be safe. And he said, no, run it through. And I said, are you sure if I don't go out and something happens and cross the center line, then I lose the run? Because, you never know with the rule book. So I'll never forget that. I'm screaming at Ace, who I never scream at, but I'm trying to say, hey, you sure? And we ended up going low ET in the final round on a single because Gary shut off. But that was the only time I can remember ever making a single round in a final.
I listened to you talk about eating, having your body right. I can imagine a lot of people, especially guys that race for 4 or 5 hours in NASCAR, they probably laugh. You're only racing for 4 seconds. But the way you talk, those 4 seconds can be very tough to get ready for.
Well, yeah, it's funny because we have these extreme surges of adrenaline for each round. So you've got to do that. Hopefully you do that 4 times in a day on a 16-car ladder, right? If you get to the final round, you've done this 4 times. You've got to get up like nothing else, and you've got to be ready because your opponent is trying to make you look bad. They're trying to leave on you. I mean, they're doing everything they can. These teams are battling each other. So you've got to get up, and then you've got to relax a little bit. You can pack your chute, whatever you got to do in between rounds, but you've got to manage that, and it's not easy to manage. I guess like the NASCAR guys, it'd be like having some caution laps. You can collect yourself, your dick trickle, you take a smoke. If you're, whoever, you take some fluids and relax a little bit on cautions. But for us, you don't have that luxury. I mean, you got to go up and you got to be your best, and then you've got to find the happy place for those highs and those lows because they're extreme. And that's why we're out of breath when we get out. And I think what started me more than anything on making sure I was good, especially the Denver race, but it's really applied to a lot of these tracks we go to in the hot and the summer and the humidity, is my early time with the Prelude to the Dream. Back then, a lot of the NASCAR guys, Tony had just won his first championship, I think, and they were taking Pedialyte before it was available really to go buy in these little packs that are flavored now. It was straight Pedialyte like you'd get in a hospital, and it tasted like crap. I mean, it was like, and I hate Scotch. It'd be like Scotch. It was like, oh. But these NASCAR guys back then were pounding this stuff right before they got in the car on these hot tracks and just sweating it out, right? And that would hydrate you and get you ready. So I was doing that. And thank God they came out with the flavored stuff later on because it was terrible. But without actually having an IV, that was the best thing to do. And I wasn't telling anybody in drag racing I was doing it, but it definitely helped me on these tracks. And there we were at the end of the day on a grueling track where guys are throwing up and they're passing out. And I felt okay.
What is your go-to now?
Well, I don't have a sponsor yet. Hint, hint on any any drinks, but still Pedialyte. I mean, that's every morning I'll wake up and whatever flavor my wife has shoved in my shaving kit. That's usually in between rounds. Like I said, I've got these protein bars that are very low glycemic, so you don't get the sugar highs and lows with it, but you get 20, 22 grams of protein. And depending, and it's funny, between rounds, depending on who I race next, is whether I'll go a full bar or half a bar. I mean, I'm that meticulous about it. I don't want, I got friends that are UFC fighters. You don't want too much in your belly, or here's what you want. Here's the amount of time that it takes for that protein bar to get in your system, little things like that. So I've taken all this advice from people in other sports, I guess, and tried to apply it to being the best funny car driver I can be. And I don't want to be.
Yeah. Explain that. Who is worth a half bar? Who is worth a full bar? Because I need more explanation on that.
I'm leaving. That's it. I'm out of here. I knew you'd tip me up with that.
Yeah. See, it's fascinating.
Well, I don't want to offend anybody, but
no, you won't.
It's just like I raced Bob Bodie, right? First round, the kid, right? Bob Bodie Jr. going to college at Arizona State, hops in a funny car for his dad on weekends, and this kid ran right next to us first round. I mean, if we made a mistake, he was there, and he's been doing everything right in the car, a rookie. And he said he didn't sleep all night because he had to race Ron Capps. And I was like, kid, I still didn't sleep all night, no matter who I raced first round, including their car. So it just depends on how the day's going. And I like to pay attention, I'm sure other drivers do, on how people's lights are in eliminations. I don't necessarily go off qualifying. And I always have people, JR and Robert Height and guys, Matt Hagan says it to me all the time. He's like, dude, I watch qualifying lights and you're like bouncing around, and all of a sudden race day, you're like killer. Good. I'm glad they're thinking that, right? So there's different things I do in qualifying, but it depends on how Robert Height, JR Todd, Matt Hagan. I mean, you start going down the list of the guys and girls that are always there, always on the tree, don't make mistakes very often. And then there's people that may play a little bit of a game you got to be ready for force. Sometimes guys roll in a little deep, you know what they do. So you don't want to get too amped, but I know, listen, Robert Height's probably the guy that him and Jimmy Prock are probably the cream of the crop when you go across the board, especially here last couple of years. So, and my teammate Hagan. So you try to focus on what they've done all day and look and see. And so I don't want to go off any more names. You guys you gotta get people mad at me.
I'm amazed, Ron. I'm truly amazed at how much is going on inside of these 4 seconds, especially as it relates to nutrition and conditioning, mental awareness. You just don't get in the car and smash it. We've known that a long time, but this conditioning and nutrition, I'm stunned.
Well, now that I've given up all my good secrets, stat. No, I've learned being able to go race this other stuff, jumping in a World Outlaws car, racing the Prelude to the Dream, going road racing in mid-Ohio, testing with IROC at Talladega in the middle of the summer, little things like that. When I get to race with these guys that I get to learn from and talk to on a casual basis around other type of racing, you learn these little things. It's always been fun for me to be around somebody that I really admire what they do in their sport. And Alexander Rossi's my teammate there in IndyCar, race Formula One. So I can lean on people like that if I ever have a question about something. And trust me, man, I make notes. And it really, I've applied a lot of that to what I do over the years. I'm getting older, but you know what? I still feel 22, and I get up and I race like I'm 22, and I want to whoop these guys' butts. I don't care if it's John Force like last weekend in the semifinals. To me, he's still 22, man. He finds a way to scratch and claw and get it done. So you just got to be on your game for anything.
Are you on your game for your SRX invitation, your SRX Racing Series invitation?
We'll see, man. That was so exciting to watch, and there's a lot of scheduling conflicts they got to work through, but how they did it with different drivers was cool. So yeah, seeing Smoke now at the track, he's right there in our pit area. Of course, Leah and I share the hospitality area with our teams, and winning together last weekend. But I've been friends with Smoke for a long time, and Ray Abraham, of course, got to race a Prelude with him. So we'll see, man. It would be an honor to be invited, and if scheduling conflicts work out and they can work it in next year, whatever they do, I can't even imagine. I've just getting to talk to all those guys about how those cars are. Paul Tracy, big horsepower, not a normal race car that they're used to. It just seemed like, God, it's going to be a blast.
Well, Ray Evernham told us a couple of weeks ago that he is very interested in getting an NHRA car together. So in case of scheduling conflicts, you guys could share duties with, let's say, a Doug Coletta, or maybe somebody who's not racing full time. Maybe, who knows, maybe an Ashley Force would go in there. Who would you want as your teammates in that drag car for the SRX series?
He's going to offend more people here.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
NHRA car. So we're going to have Ray put a couple of packs of parachutes on the back, right? That would be awesome. God, I don't know. I've said it time and time again. I mean, there's some very talented people in drag racing. I've ventured out and raced a lot of different stuff, but to me, pound for pound, the best driver is Doug Coletta. Watching him as a kid in the high banks of Winchester in a midget or Silver Crown car. He's still the guy. I've gotten to go race different dirt races with him, and he still jumps in as smooth as ever. So, I couldn't. JR Todd's another one I've gone racing with. So there's lots of people. Cruz, him and I did the Prelude, and so whoever they pick would be great. And I'm gonna love whoever to watch. If they don't pick me and somebody else, but I certainly, like I did in the Prelude, anything I go do, I want to make our NHRA fans proud to have a drag racer and do well and try to bring back the car. Unlike a lot of the drivers this year in SRX, bring back the car in somewhat of one piece. So,
Yeah,
we'll see.
But Ron, you join the SRX series, you're headed to your car, and you're drinking a freaking Pedialyte. Paul Tracy, Bill Elliott, if Dale Earnhardt was around, if Connie Coletta was around, they'd go, Ron, you're a wussy. What are you drinking a freaking baby drinking there before you hop in a race car, you little bastard?
I hate to spoil your little analogy, but Dale Earnhardt Sr. drank it. So what?
What?
I mean, how do you not model after the greatest in the world? You'd be shocked on some of these guys. Yeah, I mean, I've heard stories of, yeah. So yeah, it doesn't bother me. Hey, they want to put Pedialyte on the car. I'll drive a car that says Pedialyte on it. I don't care.
Here's Ron Capps Pedialyte, and he's wearing some diapers. Oh, here's a fake breast for breastfeeding. It makes me run faster.
There's times I wish I had a diaper on in the car. Trust me.
Seriously.
We're getting more in these 4 seconds. That more and more is packed into that 4-second run, Ron.
I blew a booger out one of the first preludes because the prelude, it was unbelievable. High banks of Eldora, and you're doing everything. And here I am around Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson, Smoke, trying to stay wide open throttle around this high bank fast track. And the track goes on, it gets bumpy, and your head's against the thing. You're just, way in over my head, right? But I'm hanging in there. And it would hit a bump, and it blew a booger out one time. It was hanging on my lip. So I'm praying for a caution, first of all, because I just need a breath. And second of all, I couldn't reach the booger in between corners. So my dad had flown out with me, and it was funny because I came in right after the race was over. And first thing I said, I go, where's the booger at? Because it had been on my lip and the bottom of my nose. I'm in between corners. I'm trying to get to it. So, yeah, crazy stuff has happened in the past in race cars. I'm sure you guys could do a whole show with drivers on just the craziness that has happened in a car that fans may not want to know, but may not know.
I'd rather have a booger than poop. So, yeah, booger away.
Yeah, either one. Don't bother me.
Face.
Yeah, we had one driver tell us it was in a sports car race, and he jumped in the car on a driver change and splashed into the seat.
Oh yeah,
that was that was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was wild.
Yeah, there's I've thrown up in a helmet when I race go-karts. I mean, boom, and just all over the inside of the visor, the helmet, and that's not a pretty sight.
What did you have to eat? Did you recognize you had bacon and eggs or a submarine?
I was probably out drinking all night the night before. I was like 22 years old, and who knows? We probably rolled in right from the bar and went to this go-kart race, which we did at times back then. Kids, it's not advised, by the way. But that was a different time.
That's going to be the new internet challenge. Vomit in the helmet. No more Tide Pods. It's vomit in the helmet. Hey,
I learned my
mine
lesson.
was green.
Oh.
Hey, Ron, here's something you haven't thought about. Ron Capps joining us here in the FreakNation Lucas Oil Studios. We've talked about this as long as we've been doing this radio show, how not one other driver from another motorsport will come into a Top Fuel or a funny car and run. Tony Stewart's done that now. Granted, it was baby steps, and he's run the Top Fuel car. Ron Capps in a funny car, Tony Stewart in a funny car, Ron Capps in a World of Outlaw car versus Tony Stewart in a quarter midget. Who's more likely to beat the other? You in a World of Outlaw, Tony Stewart in a sprint car, or in a quarter midget, or Tony Stewart in a funny car, Ron Capps in a funny car. Make sense? Make sense?
No, but I kind of see where you're going.
Just roll with me here, goddammit.
I am. Trust me. I've been around you enough. Tony Stewart is a freak of nature. Pure and simple. I've gotten to be the Chili Bowl 2 times I've raced there. It's unbelievable what he does. And when he went and drove the Top Fuel car, I talked to the crew chief on the car, the assistant crew chief, all the team members who used to be on my team years ago, and they were blown away by everything he did by just listening a couple of times and paying attention, not one time out of sync or something he forgot or something didn't. And there's a lot going on you got to remember and to do and not to do. And the car was straight as an arrow, which is also not easy. I did tell him, I said, yeah, that's okay. You're in a dragster. but you got to get in a funny car. That's a totally different animal. So I'm not sure. He says he's claustrophobic, which doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, he's a freak of nature. I wouldn't bet on anybody, even myself, racing him and anything else except a funny car. If he was just to hop in one, I'm sure he'd give it a run for his money. But yeah, I wouldn't bet against Tony.
So did you basically just say that funny car drivers are more manly, more powerful, more badass than Top Fuel rail drivers?
Crash, well, you're coming in so hot this morning. What is wrong with you? God, you're so
saying.
angry. You want a power bar? Are you angry?
I need a half. I need a half.
Okay.
Just a half for this interview.
You're only worth a half a power bar, Ron.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I know, right?
Compliment. That's a compliment.
Trying to think of which drivers do you compare me to now, huh?
Right?
So,
what was the question? I'm gonna put my best gun for it.
Who's the more badass? Because what you just said sounded like maybe it's not as hard, it's not as difficult to drive a rail versus a funny car.
Well, if you ask the drivers that have done both, the funny car is way more physically demanding, way more difficult to drive than the dragster. And I drove dragsters, and I want to go back and drive them again before I retire. So, and I've got teammates that are dragster drivers. So I'm not trying to say that. I've said it in the past when I had teammates, and I've gotten the old, what are you talking about thing? But anybody that's driven both, there's no question, no denying. And even when I've gone to race an outlaw car, Chili Bowl, midget, whatever it might be, when I get back in that funny car, it reminds me of why it is the most, just most unbelievable race car on the planet to drive. You just can't explain to somebody the amount of stuff that goes on in that short wheelbase, unearthing. Just you can't explain it to somebody unless they've done it. It is the most volatile thing you'll ever get in race car wise, and that's pretty impressive when you look at some of the other cars. So, yeah, I'll put the funny car up against anything, even the dragsters.
All right, Ron Capps, my journalism gene just got tricked off there. You dropped a headline, maybe, saying that you want to get back in a dragster before you retire, which implies you might get out of your funny car and retirement is on your horizon. Did you just drop some stuff on the Freak Nation, or did you lead us down a path?
No, I've said it time and time again. Even when Tolbert was my crew chief, we talked about going back to funny car before he retired. Back to dragster, I'm sorry. I started my career in the dragster, and I would love to go race Antron and Steve Torrance and Doug Coletta. All these years, Doug and I have been over here, and I've never gotten to race against him. So that's always been on my mind. I'd love someday to go back and do that. Not even close to thinking about retirement. I feel as good on my game right now as I've ever been, but it's definitely something that I've talked about doing. I would love to go race those guys. I've told time and time again that Doug Coletta, come to funny car. He would be so badass in a funny car, and he would enjoy it. And he's gotten to test. I think he tested Scott Coletta's car a couple times, and really he's talked about how much he loved it. So if he's not going to come over here, I'd love to go over there and race him and all those guys. And Steve Torrance is putting a whooping on everybody. It'd be fun to go up and, someday challenge with those teams.
Speaking of whooping on everybody, I know you're an F1 fan, and there's a whole thing to do now between Mercedes and Red Bull. The world is right again with Lewis on top of the points. How do you see this thing coming out? Do you think he's in Verstappen's head and he could go on and win an 8th championship?
Yeah, after last weekend, maybe. It's just, God, it's turned into such a soap opera every week. And we already know there's always been whining and complaining with those guys. But that's the elite, man. I don't know. I really feel like Red Bull is going to make a run here. I really feel good about these races coming up. If mentally, if he can stay in the game, Hamilton just mentally has been superior over the last few years. Of course, he's had a great car, but if you go back and look, that car is also great because of what he helped make it. And people forget that. They think he's just driving this unbelievable race car. Well, he had a big part of making that car great again. So, yeah, I'm just looking. It's the best season ever, right? I mean, actually, it's not somebody running away with a title. So it's fun to watch these other cars running so well and these other drivers stepping up and actually making a run for it. So, it ought to be good.
back to real quick before we let you go. Why would you not head into a Top Fuel car right now? Is it a sponsor thing? Is it a team thing? Do you have unfinished business that you want to do in Funny Car?
Great question. A lot of the sponsors nowadays, Napa's never said anything to me. I'm sure if I wanted to go, they would hopefully go. There's better signage, of course, in a Funny Car. But as of right now, I'm loving Funny Car. I don't want to get out of it. It's I just say this every year. I love jumping in that car. It's just nothing on the planet will. So anyway, yeah, it's nothing more than just when the time's right and I want to jump back in them. Believe it or not, I think the Funny Cars are safer than the dragsters, and people look at you with 3 eyeballs sometimes when you say that. But yeah, you're on fire sometimes. But look, I've never been burned bad. But you have those big Goodyears next to you if something happens, and we've seen a lot of nasty wrecks. And I just feel a little more comfortable right now, believe it or not. Unlike that Phil Alter that I won the March meet, that was probably the most incredible car to drive. That felt like you're leaning back in a bar stool and you're about to fall over backwards and you kept catching yourself. That gut feeling was every run I made in that thing. So we'll see.
Ron, are you wearing pants?
Shorts.
Okay. Still
right now? This
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
Yeah, shorts.
I just know how you like to walk
I'm glad
around.
I just showered and shaved and I came downstairs and I was laughing at my wife because I didn't have shorts or underwear on. She goes, "You should go down and do that." So I almost did. Then that would have been funny if you asked me. I would have thought, "Uh-oh, do you see something I don't see? Is there a mirror?"
I see your white ass on that
It
reflection.
is Speed Freaks. If I'm going to go camo list, then I might as well do it on this show, right?
Oh my gosh. Hello, 2021.
Oh, thank goodness
Wait, are we recording right now?
I better start it.
Oh, damn it.
You've already given us 15 different teases, so get used to it on Twitter. Seeing all these,
I know, right?
right? There'll be zero about racing.
He hates Hamilton. Oh my God! No.
John Force doesn't deserve 15 championships.
He's only worth a half a bar.
Oh man, yeah. No, that's a full bar right there. Trust
That's a
me.
full bar.
Has Matt Hagan had a roid rage on you yet?
What?
I don't know. Not to my face. We've had some pretty good battles, but we haven't had it out like no. Thank God, no.
He hasn't told you that he takes 2 bars to race you.
Hey, that's a big boy, man. He's going to need more than 1 bar.
Right.
That's for sure.
Well, Ronnie, go out and win Kansas, will you?
You got it, man. We'll do this again.
With your pants
Yes, we
on.
will. Oh, okay.
Or not. Hey. Depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
I'm not going there.
Ronald C. Caps. Love you, partner. From racquetball to Pedialyte. There you go.
Man. Ronnie, thanks, Broham.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, you guys.
You got it.
Love
See
it.
ya.